Your attitude's the problem, my manager said after I asked why I was passed over for a promotion. I said, thanks for the clarity, and left. That weekend, I created a slide deck mapping every error she'd made since March. I sent it to her boss with the subject line, Patterns. Monday morning, she was gone. But she took her petty little clique down with her. I worked in operations at a mid-sized tech company for almost 5 years. I wasn't flashy. I didn't network or kiss up. I just did my job well. I hit deadlines, kept things organized, solved problems that weren't even mine to fix. My coworkers used to come to me when they needed help getting things done. Even my manager used to rely on me to quietly clean up messes behind the scenes. I wasn't looking to climb some corporate ladder. I just wanted recognition for what I brought to the table. Respect. A fair shot. Earlier this year, a senior ops role opened up. I had been unofficially doing most of that work for months already, ever since the last guy quit. I stayed late, led meetings, kept things running while my manager, Caroline, ducked out early or delegated everything so she could focus on strategy, which mostly meant floating between people's desks and gossiping. When I applied for the promotion, I felt confident. I knew the systems inside out. I'd already proven I could handle the work. And for once, I let myself believe that maybe, finally, I'd be seen. HR told me they were considering internal applicants first. I didn't hear anything for 3 weeks. Then, on a random Tuesday morning, they posted the position as filled on the intranet with an external hire. A guy from another company I'd never even heard of. No warning, no interview follow-up, nothing. I asked Caroline if she could explain why I wasn't selected. She didn't even look up from her monitor when she said it. Your attitude's the problem. That's all she gave me. Not my work. Not my experience. Not my performance. My attitude. I just stood there for a second. Then I said, thanks for the clarity, and I walked out. I didn't slam doors. I didn't cry. I didn't quit. I went back to my desk, plugged in my headphones, and started building something she wouldn't see coming. I spent the weekend going through my emails, screenshots, Slack messages, and project files. I built a deck. A clean, professional, fully sourced slide deck documenting every mistake Caroline had made since March. Misfiled reports. Ignored compliance warnings. Project delays she blamed on others. Sloppy budgeting errors. Instances where she openly mocked junior staff over chat. I included receipts, dates, names, proof. I didn't just show what she did, I showed how it hurt the team, how it affected client delivery morale and trust. I named the file Patterns. On Sunday night, I sent it to her boss, a VP named Malik, with nothing in the body of the email, just the subject line, Patterns. I didn't sleep that night. Monday morning, Caroline didn't show up for a 9 a.m. stand-up. By 10 a.m., an HR rep was in the office. By lunch, her Slack profile had been deactivated. No goodbye. No explanation. Over the next 2 weeks, her little circle, the ones who covered for her, gossiped with her, protected her, started disappearing too. One went on leave. One was reassigned. Another just never came back. No one said much. But people started looking at me differently. A few nodded in the halls. A couple of them started asking for my opinion in meetings. I kept my head down. I didn't do it to get promoted. I did it because I was tired of people like her getting away with it. I did it because if I hadn't, she would have kept going. And someone else would have paid for her mess next time. Probably someone even quieter than me. I haven't told anyone at work. It was me. No one asked. But sometimes I catch Malik looking at me like he knows. Like he read every word of that deck and knew exactly who could have built it. I'm not proud, but I'm not sorry either. For a little while after Caroline was gone, things got quiet. People started showing up to work on time again. Team meetings were shorter. No one made passive-aggressive comments in Slack anymore. The whole floor felt lighter, like someone had opened a window and let the air back in. But peace doesn't last long in places like this. 2 weeks after Caroline disappeared, a new inter-manager showed up. Her name was Gwen. Corporate sent her from another branch to stabilize the team. At first, she seemed fine, professional, no small talk, very by the book. But it didn't take long to see she was just another version of the same problem. Different face, same game. Gwen didn't understand the systems we used. She asked questions that showed she hadn't read any of our processes. But instead of learning, she pretended to know things she didn't. She made decisions without asking the team, then blamed others when they backfired. She started assigning overtime without notice, denied PTO, tried to micromanage everything even though she didn't know what she was doing. The worst part, she started sniffing around to find out what had happened to Caroline. I overheard her asking one of the guys on my team if anyone had flagged anything unusual. I knew what she was doing. She didn't care about cleaning up the mess. She was looking for the person who lit the match. People started getting nervous again. She pulled 2 junior analysts into HR meetings without warning. One came back looking like she'd been crying. The other one stopped showing up to team calls. I stayed quiet. I kept doing my job. I let her take credit for a couple of process improvements I had built months before. I said nothing when she presented my dashboard in a meeting with our director and acted like she designed it. Then one day I noticed something strange. I logged into a shared folder and saw a new document. My name was in the file title. I opened it. It was a draft performance review. Negative, harsh, totally inaccurate. Gwen had marked me as uncooperative and resistant to authority. She mentioned concerning patterns of behavior and hostility toward leadership. I hadn't even had a one-on-one with her yet. I closed the file without touching anything. I waited 2 days before doing anything, just watched her, listened. Then I started asking around, quietly. Turns out she'd been brought in not just to fill Caroline's role, but to restructure the team. She was sent in to clean house. She had a list, and I was on it. One of the analysts who had been pulled into HR told me that Gwen had asked directly if I seemed like the type to stir things up. She said Gwen mentioned how quickly Caroline's exit happened and that someone with a grudge had probably engineered it. So Gwen wasn't just here to manage. She was here to punish. She couldn't prove it was me, but she was going to bury me anyway, and I wasn't going to wait around for it to happen. I didn't tell anyone what I saw in that draft review. I just started planning again. This time I moved slower. I knew Gwen was careful, smarter than Caroline in some ways. She didn't make sloppy mistakes, at least not where people could see them. She kept things verbal. No email trails. No notes. But people talk when they feel scared. And Gwen scared people. One of the senior developers, Raj, who kept to himself most of the time, sent me a message one evening. Said he heard I was on Gwen's list. Said he was too, just not as high up. He told me Gwen was meeting privately with Malik, often unscheduled, closed-door talks. She was feeding him a story, trying to flip the narrative, make it seem like the issues didn't start with Caroline, but with the people underneath her. People like me. So I started documenting again. Not about Gwen's behavior, because there wasn't enough written proof. This time, I focused on outcomes. I began building a record of how team performance had declined since she started, missed deliverables, confused communication, clients asking questions that never used to come up. I didn't put my name on any of it. I just kept the receipts. Then something strange happened. One Friday, HR sent out a company-wide email about an anonymous employee survey. Standard stuff, supposedly. I'd seen those before, no one took them seriously. But this one was different. It asked direct questions about leadership, about team climate, about whether people had been retaliated against. That survey was not from Gwen, and it wasn't from Malik either. Turns out, the company had hired an external compliance auditor. Quietly. Apparently, Caroline's exit had triggered a deeper look into how mid-level leadership was being handled. Someone on the board had flagged a concern. The survey wasn't random. It was targeted. That same week, Malik canceled all his recurring one-on-one meetings. He stopped showing up on Slack. For a few days, people were just guessing. Then someone saw him cleaning out his office one evening. No announcement. No goodbye. That's when I realized something. Gwen was sent to clean house, but someone else was cleaning behind her. And now people were watching all of us, including me. One afternoon, Raj came to my desk and slipped me a USB drive. Said it had something I needed to see. Inside was a copy of a private team folder Gwen had accidentally synced to the shared network for a few hours before she pulled it down. Raj had copied it before it disappeared. Inside the folder? Notes, audio memos, files with initials, mine included. She had been building a case, not just a performance review, but a formal file. She was preparing to fire me. But what she didn't know was that the file also included a memo she recorded for herself, probably thinking it was just a draft. In it, she said something like, "This one's going to push back." Probably the same one who took Caroline down. But I'll cut off the oxygen before they move. She said it like it was a game. I knew then that I wasn't just being targeted, I was being hunted. She wanted to make an example out of me, and she thought she had time. But she didn't know what I had been building in the background, and she didn't know I wasn't working alone anymore. After I heard that recording, something in me changed. It wasn't fear anymore. It was cold, focused. She thought I'd act alone like before, but I wasn't alone now. Raj had been collecting things too, Slack messages she sent, calendar invites that didn't match her reports, emails where she shifted blame onto team members for things she approved. Another co-worker, Naomi, who'd been on edge for weeks, came forward quietly. She had screenshots too. Some were personal DMs Gwen sent late at night, pressuring her to rewrite team notes and remove certain names from responsibility charts. At first, Naomi was scared to share. She thought it would make things worse. I told her I believed her. I showed her part of the file Raj had given me, the part where Gwen said our names out loud, the part where she laughed. That was when Naomi stopped being scared. We didn't go to HR directly. We didn't trust them yet. Too many people had been burned in closed-door meetings. Instead, we sent everything to the compliance inbox from 3 different personal email addresses. The external audit team that had issued the survey had left contact info in fine print at the bottom of the form. Most people ignored it. We didn't. We sent the copied folder with Gwen's file screenshots from Slack and email, a copy of my draft performance review testimonies from 3 team members, all anonymized audio transcriptions from Gwen's memo. We didn't say much. Just attached the evidence and used the subject line, coordinated retaliation under intermanagement, urgent pattern. A few days passed. Nothing happened. Then Naomi was called into a follow-up meeting. But it wasn't with HR. It was with someone from the external firm. She came back looking different. Calm. They know, she said. They were already looking. We just gave them the rest. Later that week, when called a full team meeting, first time she had ever gathered all of us. She looked strained but forced a smile. She started talking about rebuilding trust, clear communication, and creating a positive environment. Her tone was careful, like someone was listening. She didn't mention the survey. She didn't mention Malik. She definitely didn't mention the email we sent. But I knew she knew, because when the meeting ended and everyone logged off, she stayed on the call for 5 extra seconds. Just enough time for me to hear her mutter one thing into her muted mic before she forgot her camera was still on. She said, "Too late," and she looked scared. For the first time since she arrived, she looked scared. That's when I realized this wasn't about me getting revenge anymore. This was something bigger, something deeper in the company had cracked open. And Gwen? She wasn't just the next Caroline. She was the last one they were going to protect. After that meeting, things started to shift, quietly but fast. Gwen stopped being seen in the office. No more surprise one-on-ones. No late-night Slack messages. She started working from home due to health reasons, but we all knew what it really meant. The audit team was closing in. A week later, a company-wide message went out. It was from legal and compliance. Very formal. Said there had been substantiated findings of managerial misconduct and that steps were being taken to restructure leadership. They didn't name her. They never do. But we knew. Her profile disappeared from the org chart by the next morning. But that wasn't the twist. The twist came the following Monday when I got called into a meeting with someone new. A woman named Alina. She introduced herself as part of the post-investigation recovery team. Not HR, not ops. She didn't smile, didn't try to build rapport. She just asked questions, not about Gwen, about me. She had a file in front of her, printed, thick. She flipped through it, page by page, while I sat there waiting. She didn't accuse me of anything. She just said, "You've been through 3 managers in less than 2 years. All of them left under a cloud. Some might say you're the problem." I didn't answer. She looked at me for a long time. Then she said something that stuck, but others might say you were the only one paying attention. She asked if I wanted to take a formal role helping build internal protections, an advisory slot for operational ethics. A temporary assignment. No pay bump, no title change, but full access. It wasn't a reward. It was a test. I said yes. That's when I started seeing things from a different angle. Caroline hadn't just been incompetent. Gwen wasn't just a replacement. Malik wasn't just careless. There was a pattern. Bad hires protecting each other, covering things up, passing the buck down. I wasn't the first person to speak up. I was just the first one who documented it well enough that they couldn't bury it. In the new role, I started digging through old files. Quietly. Archived meeting notes. Exit interviews. One former employee had flagged Caroline a full year before I did. Their warning was ignored. Another file showed Malik had been warned about Gwen's behavior at a previous branch. Everything was there, in writing, ignored. This wasn't a single problem. This was a system, and now I was sitting inside it, looking at all the names, and realizing some of them were still here. Some of them were watching me now, because cleaning out a few bad managers was only the start. The real revenge? That hadn't even begun yet. The deeper I went into those files, the heavier it got. It wasn't just Caroline, Gwen, and Malik. There were others. People in departments I didn't even work with. Leaders who had quietly approved reassignments instead of investigations. HR managers who marked official complaints as resolved without ever interviewing the person who submitted them. Some of the reports were heartbreaking. Employees who asked for help and got silence. A contractor who was pushed out after reporting harassment. A team lead who had a breakdown after months of being publicly humiliated by her manager. All of them gone. All of them erased. It wasn't a few bad apples. It was a rotten system that protected itself. And I was now sitting in a temporary seat in front of the documents that proved it. I stopped sleeping well. Even Raj noticed. He said I looked different now, like I was somewhere else all the time. He was right. I was angry all the time. Not the loud kind of angry, the kind that eats through your ribs slowly. But I wasn't going to let it rot me. I made a plan. One night, I stayed late in the office. The building was almost empty. I logged in through the internal audit system, still active under the advisory role. I used my access to pull everything I had found, reports, call logs, survey results, buried complaints, and evidence of retaliation. I sorted them by year, by department, by pattern. Then I created a timeline, from the first warning in 2017 to the last attempt to frame me in 2025. It was over 80 pages. No commentary, just facts. I named the file Retention versus Silence, a timeline of neglect. I didn't send it to HR. I sent it directly to the board. Each one of them, individually. No CCs, no forwarding chains. And I sent one physical copy, bound, tabbed with an index to the office of the CEO, signed with my name. No anonymous cover. Then I clear my desk. I handed in my badge and walked out. No fanfare. No goodbye party. Just gone. 2 weeks later, the company made headlines. An internal whistleblower report had been leaked to the press. Not by me. Someone up top, probably trying to save their own skin. An independent investigation had begun. The CEO made a public statement, said there had been failures in oversight, gaps in accountability, and that changes were coming. 4 executives were quietly let go. 2 HR directors resigned. 3 senior managers across different departments were suspended pending investigation. The company created a new department, Ethics and Risk Integrity. Raj was offered a senior role in it. Naomi was brought back as a team lead. I got nothing. No call. No offer. No thank you. Just silence. And I was okay with that. Because the revenge wasn't about me climbing higher. It wasn't about getting credit. It was about making sure no one else would go through what I did. It was about making it cost something to protect people like Caroline and Gwen. The last I heard, Gwen tried to sue for wrongful termination, but the audit files had her voice on record, naming people she planned to sabotage. She dropped the case. Caroline moved to another company, but someone from my old team forwarded the report there too. A quiet heads up. She was gone from that job within months. As for me, I took a break, deleted LinkedIn, moved out of the city. I got a job in a smaller firm, one that didn't have layers of rot to fight through. I work with people who don't lie for a living. And sometimes I still think about the file, about everything I saw, what I lost, what I chose. Some nights, I wonder if I burned too much down, but then I remember what Gwen said when she thought no one could hear. I'll cut off the oxygen before they move. She thought I was just one person. She forgot that quiet people watch everything, and some of us don't forgive. We just wait. Then we strike. And when we do, we make sure it ends for good.